In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at using the free software Blender to create 3D surfaces for use in AI. Okay, so I've run Blender, and this is the first screen that we see. Now, I want to get rid of this cube first of all. We can actually see it's selected by default because it has this orange outline around it. So all we need to do is press the X button and then choose delete. Okay, so the first screen I'm going to make, I'm not going to worry about making a standard rectangular screen because we can make those very easily just by distorting the screen model in AI. Instead, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do a screen made of panels with gaps between the panels. I'm going to go for 5 wide and 3 high, so a total of 15 panels. So first of all, let's go to the Create tab towards the top left of the interface. And then let's choose Plane from the top of that menu. There we go. Now I want to actually rotate this round 90 degrees so that it's sitting upright and not laying down. So if we go onto the Tools tab, that's the very top tab, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to double left click rotate. If you click rotate, translate or scale just once, the action becomes locked to your mouse, but if you click it twice you can actually enter the values in a number box, which I find easier. So I'm going to double left click on rotate. And then I'm going to choose the axis that I want to rotate around. I want to rotate around this red axis, which is the X. And you've always got this handy little reference in the bottom left which shows you which axis is which. So I'm going to choose X and then type in 90. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's think about how we change this viewport. So we saw me zoom in and out then. That's using my mouse wheel. If I hold the mouse wheel in and move my mouse, it rotates my world, and if I hold shift and hold the middle mouse button in and move it, it pans the world. Okay, so let's just give myself a nice view there. Okay, that looks kind of good to me. So let's start duplicating the other panels. So we're going to choose the array tool, and that's the spanner or the wrench icon here on the top right, and then on the add modifier drop down we're going to choose array from the top of the second column. So we can see that straight away it's given me a clone of my original panel. Now I mentioned that I actually wanted 5 panels wide and 3 panels high. So let's start getting those numbers in a little bit. So if we look at the count, this is the amount of panels that we have in total with this array. So I want to click on here and just put that up to 5. And then as I mentioned, I actually want some gaps between those panels. Now if we look at the relative position here, the relative position is saying 1, and because it's relative it means in relation to the size of the original panel. So when we have a relative offset of 1, it really just means place the next one after the first one. So I'm just going to increase that a little bit to 1.3 so that we then get a gap between those panels. That's great. So then I'm going to apply that array, and then I'm going to add a second array. And this time I want to go on my vertical and not my horizontal. So we can put the horizontal offset to 0, and then we put the vertical offset to 1.3 so that we have the same size gap. And then I'm going to increase that count up to 3 as I mentioned. Okay, so that's great. So I'm going to apply that one. Now what I want to do next, I just want to get a good flat view of this screen surface before we move on. So I'm going to go to the View menu. I'm going to choose Front View. And I'm also going to go back and choose View Perspective Orthographic. So this is an orthographic view, a flat non-3D view. Okay, so the next step is for us to tell the screen which part of our texture is going to show on which part of the model. So we need to open up our UV image editing window. If you move your mouse to the top right of the interface, you can see these little diagonal lines. And when I move my pointer over that, you'll see that it turns into a crosshair. When you can see the crosshair, click and hold the left mouse button and drag that middle over just to split in 2. And then I'm going to use shift and the middle mouse just to reposition my screen and go in a bit with my zoom on the middle mouse. Okay, so on the right we need this to show the correct window. So if we go to the white cube at the bottom and we click on UV image editor, it's given us a square texture by default, which is the standard in graphics. I'm going to suggest that we use a 16:9 ratio texture. So if we click on the new button at the bottom and we enter a 16:9 ratio, I'm going to put 1920 by 1080, Then I'm going to press OK at the bottom. Then I'm just going to zoom out a little bit with my mouse wheel. That's great. So now all we need to do is just place this within that texture region. So on the left, I'm going to go to the drop down that says Object Mode, and I'm going to choose Edit Mode. I'm then going to choose Face Mode, so that's the cube with the orange face on it. And then holding my mouse on the left, I'm going to press U for UV. So, when we talk about a UV, we're actually talking about the horizontal and vertical position within the texture area. Traditionally in 3D we use X and Y to describe position, which is why we don't use it in relation to texture, although we are talking about the same thing essentially. Now I'm going to use Project from View, so it's just going to take it as we see it here and place it within the texture area from that same point of view. So U and Project from View. That's good. So all we need to do now, we need to just scale this up a bit. So with my mouse on the right, I'm going to press S for scale, and it locks to the mouse, so I just keep dragging until I'm happy. Something like that. Now I just need to reposition this a bit and sort of even up its position. So if I press G, that's for translation, and I can just find out about where I'm happy, sort of there. That looks good. Okay, so I'm happy with that model now. I'm going to now export that and get it into AI. So if we go to File and Export and 3D Studio, 3ds. So first of all, let's choose our location. I'm going to go to the desktop here. I'm going to call this one Example Screen 01. Now, when we export our model, it's important to remember that different programs sometimes flip their Y and their Z axis, so we just need to tell the model which axis is which. So we can do that with these drop down boxes here on the bottom left, and in the forward one we want -Z forwards, and in the up one we want Y up. That's the right settings for AI. And then I'm on my desktop already, which is great. I've entered my name, so now I can just press Export 3ds. So now I'm just going to very quickly open AI, which is running here in the background. And I'm just going to import this model here. So I've just cleared the fixture out. I've got a full HD resolution set there. And I've left the scale, width, height and depth at values of 1 because I've already put it to its correct proportions. So then the screen that I've got is here. I can just drag that onto my fixture icon like so. And that looks great. So we can see that the panel is only showing the correct part. And of course this will now be fully editable in my mapping editor. If I put a projector into the project here, we just push him out a little bit. Put him over there. And back a little bit more. There we go. If we go to the output page now and choose the projector, we'll see that we've got those separate vertex points for each of those panels in there, like so.